Hello, today is the day we talk about the immune system, that thing that's been keeping you alive for all these years. So we're going to be talking about the functions of the immune system, how it recognizes what is foreign and what is native, and how the innate and adaptive branches of this immune system are different. We're going to talk about how the body remembers an infection, and some instances of what happens when the immune system malfunctions. So I want to start off by telling you about my favorite island, which is North Sentinel Island, and it is located out here in the Indian Ocean, right where this star is. And this island is just incredible because it's home to a civilization called the North Sentinelese. They are one of the last remaining uncontacted peoples, and that means they're living in complete isolation from the rest of humanity. As far as we know, they're a hunter and gatherer civilization. They do not know how to make fire, and we know very little about their way of life or even how many there are. There's this huge mystery. In fact, this is the best picture we have of the North Sentinelese people. The Indian government, who technically owns these waters, could go in there with, helicopters and ships and find out what's going on, but scientists have recommended against this. And one big reason is that scientists fear that they have a lack of immunity. You see, our bodies all carry thousands of different bacteria and viruses that we are immune to. Your body knows how to defend against these invaders, and so the pathogens, they don't hurt you. But the Sentinelese people, they have lived isolated from the rest of the world for so long that scientists, they fear that these people have never encountered, say, the virus that we know as a common cold, and they would have no immunity to it. So instead of just getting sick and then getting better, that it would be devastating and wipe out their entire population. So, as we begin talking about the immune system, I want you to imagine your body as a castle, and your immune system needs to help defend that castle. We've got a moat around the castle with water in it. We've got walls of the castle. The first branch of the immune system we'll look at is the innate immune system. We would call this an all-purpose kind of defense against all kinds of pathogens, whether it's foreign proteins, viruses, bacteria, parasites, or fungi. It is the fastest, rapid response to an infection, but it's not specific. It's all-purpose. It does the same thing to pretty much any pathogen. Our skin and mucous membranes are the foremost example of this. Our skin is impenetrable as long as it doesn't get cut. And we have mucous membranes that line our airways, our digestive and urinary tracts. And they're secreting these secretions that help to trap pathogens that are trying to invade our bodies, and also to whisk them away. Our skin, interestingly, has a low pH, so the acidity prevents a lot of harmful bacteria from being able to grow on our skin. As well, our skin is home to many normal fauna, which are friendly bacteria that don't harm us, and they kind of crowd out the harmful bacteria so that there's not enough food and resources for the harmful bacteria to really survive in large numbers on our skin. So we would compare the skin and mucous membranes, these physical barriers, to the castle walls. They're physically there preventing pathogens from entering. Another part of our innate immune system is the phagocytes. These are white blood cells that ingest foreign particles. When there is an infection in some part of our body, the neutrophils are the first cells to arrive to the scene, and they are a short-lived response. They'll get there, ingest some foreign particles, and then their response will be short-lived. Later arriving will be the macrophages, which have a longer-lived response, and they're more effective, but they get there later. Here we have a macrophage engulfing, undergoing phagocytosis for these microbes. That could be a bacteria right there. The macrophage will encapsulate the microbes into a vacuole. Lysosomes containing enzymes will destroy the foreign pathogens, and then the remnants will be extruded. Now, the key thing here is that these cells both are a form of nonspecific immunity. They do the same for any foreign invader. They don't specialize against a specific one. Just anything that's not the body's own cells, they will attack. And this comes up when people have heart transplants. If you receive a heart transplant, then your rest of your body will see that new heart as something foreign, and a person who receives such a transplant will need to take drugs to suppress their immune system for as long as they live to prevent their body from attacking their new heart that's keeping them alive. Yet another cell in our innate immune system is the natural killer cell. This is a cell which destroys our native body cells that have been infected by a virus. So on the left here we've got a natural killer cell that's checking out a normal cell. This cell has not been infected by a virus, and because of this interaction with the MHC class 1, that stands for major histocompatibility, because of this successful interaction, the natural killer cell leaves that cell alone. But here on the right, the natural killer cell has encountered an abnormal cell. It's infected by a virus, and the natural killer cell knows this because it's not expressing MHC class 1. When this interaction happens, the natural killer cell will release factors causing this virally infected body cell to undergo apoptosis. It's going to release perforin, which creates holes called pores in the cell, and it's going to release granzyme, which is a protease that destroys the cell's proteins, thus killing the virally infected cell, preventing that virus from being able to reproduce and spread to neighboring cells. Here's kind of a holistic picture of what happens at the site of infection. So there's been a foreign pathogen that's entered the body in some way. The cells that have been invaded, as well as mast cells in the surrounding area, will both release a substance called histamine, and this is a molecule that's known as an inflammatory molecule. The effects of inflammation are going to be causing this capillary, this blood vessel, to dilate, and that's going to allow white blood cells to move from the blood into the tissue where they are needed to fight the infection. As we said before, neutrophils arrive first and they start eating or phagocytosing the foreign pathogens, and then macrophages will arrive later doing the same thing for a longer lived response. Inflammation is characterized by heat in the site of infection, swelling because of all the fluid rushing into the tissue, pain transmitted through the nerves, and redness due to the dilation of the capillaries. What's interesting is that an allergic reaction is actually a version of inflammation that happens when it shouldn't. An allergic reaction is when the body responds to an innocuous molecule, so something that's not really harmful, such as peanut oil. So with someone with a peanut allergy, their immune system is hypersensitive and it reacts as though this is a dangerous infection, when in fact it's not something that's going to hurt the body. These histamines are the original causes of inflammation at the site, and so when someone has allergies, you may hear about them taking an antihistamine as a treatment or prevention for those allergies. The last part of innate immunity that I want you to know about is the complement system. This is a set of proteins which, when triggered, will assemble together and form this pore on the surface of the pathogen. Let's say this is a bacteria, a foreign bacteria. They form this pore called a membrane attack complex, and I just love that name, membrane attack complex. This pore is going to allow water and ions to rush into the cell, and the cell will swell, undergo lysis, and be completely destroyed. So essentially, we poke holes in our enemies. If we put this all together, I want you to think of the castle as our body again. The skin is like the castle walls. That's our innate immune barrier. The secretions that our mucous membranes secrete to wash away the pathogens, that's like the water in the moat. We've got phagocytes, which I've put as crocodiles that are swimming around in the moat, and they are ready to just eat whatever foreign invaders come in. And we have complement proteins, which poke holes in our invading bacteria. So I've drawn them as spikes on the ground outside the castle. All of these defenses are good and they're effective, but I want you to remember that they are non-specific. They target every foreign invader in the same way. They're not specialized toward any particular pathogen. That's it for innate immune system. Join me in the next video as we talk about the adaptive immune system.